How we doing? Welcome to episode, what are we up to now? Well, episode 11, I think this is. And today, Brian asks a question. Do you rate saunas as a recovery aid? I've recently started using one about 5 times a week after exercise and noticed that I'm definitely not as sore as I used to be. I think you've answered your own question. In fact, all my old shoulder stiffness is practically gone. Perhaps the 10-minute lazy swim that follows also helps. Brian, good question. We are going to look at a few little points as we go through this, but a simple answer, if you don't want to listen to the rest of this video or find the blog post and read through the original writing on this, excuse me, if you can't be bothered with all that, the simple answer is blood flow. In the sauna, you're increasing your body temperature, you're bringing blood to the surface, to the muscles, to the skin to offload heat, to try and cool yourself down. That blood's circulating through basically all the muscles you've been working. Blood flow. What does blood do? Carries nutrition, yeah? Carries oxygen. It carries fuel into the cells. So it's also carrying away waste products, carbon dioxide. So yeah, you're sitting, relaxing in the sauna. You're increasing blood flow. Heart rates have gone up. They've been recorded as about 150 beats per minute in some cases, of people just sitting in the sauna. So you've got blood pumping through the muscles. The heat and the moisture helps the breathing apparatus, your lungs, your alveoli, etc., to open up so you can get more air, better in and out, potentially more efficient gas exchange. Your heart rate's gone up, somewhere between 100, 150 beats per minute, depending on who you are and how acclimatized you are. So if I said to somebody, your heart rate is going to be up around 100, 150 beats a minute, your lungs are going to open up, and you're going to be sweating. Does that not sound a lot like cardio? Sounds a lot like aerobic training. It's cardio, but you're sitting on your backside in the sauna. So oh yeah, that's an important note. Due to increased cardio output, the heart pushing harder, there seems to be no change in stroke volume, right? So yeah, blood being pumped out to the extremities, job's a good one. That's the short answer. Now, is sauna a problem? For some people, saunas can be an issue if there are pre-existing heart conditions. So that's pretty much a contraindication to a lot of exercise anyway. If you have a pre-existing heart condition, you need to be very careful about the kind of exercise you do. But as a sauna puts you into a cardio-like, yeah, it's not cardio, it's cardio-like sort of state, increased heart rate. If there's a pre-existing heart condition, then yeah, possibly there's going to be an issue. Now, what about the shoulder? What about Brian's shoulder? Well, we can't say for certain. We really can't. We can say what we think, and we have to then say that what we think might not be correct, but we can work with it for the moment until we have better evidence. What can we think? Does the swim help, as Brian suggests? Well, quite possibly. You're moving. What does movement do? Brings blood flow. Lubricates the joints. Joints love to move. They really do. Especially big synovial joints. They love to move. So many issues can be sorted simply by moving more. And when I say more, I'm not just talking volume, but variety. A variety of movements. We get a lot of pains from repetitive, simple, repeated movements, and this is what the evidence has shown in kids doing single sports and early specialization tend to be injured adults, far more so than kids that come from a more varied background, less specialized, and maybe specializing later in sports. So look at your top level athletes, the guys who tend to have the longest careers have the widest base. Think of it like a pyramid. The wider the base, the higher the pyramid. So if you start in one sport and you stay in one sport, it's not that you're going to get injured and have a short career, but it's possible. Does depend on the sport. There are sports that have a very wide base because there's a huge movement vocabulary. I've said it before, martial artists, dancers, gymnasts, particularly traditional martial artists, the more combat sports focused martial arts guys, they do tend to specialize. They limit their movement vocabulary to be more optimal in the sport, better performance in the sport of martial arts. But those who train martial arts for martial arts do tend to have a wide movement vocabulary, as do gymnasts, as do dancers, by the very nature of their sports. So, yeah, movement. Quite literally, motion is lotion. So if you have pain, if you have a painful shoulder, if you have a painful whatever, light movement, lots of it. Yeah. Don't go into pain, but there's nothing wrong with a bit of discomfort. Learn to know the difference. Now, so does the sauna help the shoulder? Well, again, I'm a big fan of what's the lowest common denominator. If we put everything into a Venn diagram, what's in the middle where everything crosses over? And it basically comes down to that idea of blood flow. Heart's pumping blood through the muscles, the joints are moving. This is the difference between the sauna and the swim. You're still increasing the temperature, you're still increasing blood flow. The difference with the swim is you're active, in the sauna you're passive. So you're not necessarily moving in the sauna. In the pool, you're moving. That's the difference. But otherwise, are we looking at a cumulative effect of the two? Like, you can't move all the time, you will get tired. Passive, you're actually recovering. You're not getting tired. You're doing the opposite now. So the sauna gives you the opportunity to get the blood flow, the heat, blah, 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 without any movement that could potentially aggravate an issue. So yeah, it's a good thing. In the sauna, we have these things that they call heat shock proteins that get released in the body. Kind of part of your stress response. Heat is a stressor. So they're more temperature shock proteins or temperature stimulated proteins because it's kind of an effect in the body that happens whether it's extreme heat, i.e. the sauna, or cold, your ice baths. Various other environmental stresses can also release these kind of proteins as part of your immune response, your stress response. So there's a lot of complexity in it. I don't really know too much about them, if I'm honest. I've read a variety of sources, and it seems to be nobody really fully understands this yet, but we're learning. People are learning, and when the smart people understand it and they can translate it into a language I understand, I'll maybe translate it into a language that you understand, and so on and so forth. But what these seem to do is they help make sure that the regular proteins can cross into the cells, and into and out of. They cross the cell wall both directions. So any waste products or broken dead cells, etc., can be transported away, hopefully leaving behind the healthier stuff to kind of help filter your the cells, if you like. So you're healing. The heat shock proteins boost healing. It's like your healing factor, your Wolverine factor. Now, what we think, and it is just what we think, inflammation is part of an immune response. Okay, you damage yourself, inflammation happens. It's natural, it's normal. In fact, that brings in a lot of nutrition, healing factors into the space where the inflammation's happening. So, if you take a heavy bang, you get a bit of swelling. You twist your ankle swells up, fluids going in from all directions. Problem is, if it stays there too long, that could be a bit of an issue, but we do want inflammation. If it's an actual, genuine injury, if it's an autoimmune type issue, well, we're not sure what the stimulus is, but there's inflammation happening and symptoms are occurring. So, saunas have been recorded, people who've taken regular saunas, it dampens this autoimmune response. And a thought process that's gone into it is that it's a case of you might get an acute autoimmune flare up, but over time it reduces. So is it like what's the word I'm thinking here? A gradual gradiated exposure, basically progressive resistance training for your immune system, whereby every time you're experiencing this heat, your immune system kicks in, so therefore your autoimmune issues will flare up, but the heat shock proteins are doing the job. Lungs are opening up, getting better gas exchange, getting rid of carbon dioxide and various other waste products that are able to be broken down and released through the exhale. Sweats or whatever stuff is coming out through the skin, blood flow pumping around everything. It's coming out of the internal organs into the muscles and just pumping through everything. So does that start to reset the immune system to some degree? So it's almost if it gets bored of the autoimmune stuff and starts just doing its job properly. That's a very loose, very, very loose explanation. Truth is, we don't know much for definite. But like a lot of things in the body, this idea of specific adaptation to imposed demand, the SAID principle, this idea of progressive resistance training, graduated exposure, whatever you want to call it, so many of the body's systems respond to this. They really, really do. So many of the systems can be trained. We all know if we do bicep curls, we're stressing the bicep muscle. The bicep muscle gets stronger, bigger. We know if we take up running and we run a little bit fairly frequently, well, pretty soon we'll be able to run a lot. It's that graded exposure. It's how you train. Whatever you practice, you adapt to. So the sauna does seem to help with the immune response. How has that helped Brian's shoulder? Well, I guess the heat, reducing the inflammation, whatever else. Possibly the movement is helping the joint, the body, the brain's awareness of the joint, help it. We don't really know where motion really does help most things. Could be general movement, could be specific movement. I think the research shows it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of research into non-specific back pain, and they've shown that walking is as effective as specific exercise interventions. So the same thing for the shoulder. Well, why can't it be? Um, so yeah, what is it, Brian? Is it the sauna? Is it the swim? Is it both? Most likely it's both. Here's the long story short version is it's very much what you think, what you believe. If you believe the sauna's helping you, then guess what? It probably is. If you believe the sauna doesn't help you, then guess what? It probably won't. What happens in here really is primary. Really is primary. It's probably more important what goes on here than anything you're actually doing, whether it's swimming, lifting weights, sitting in the sauna, juggling, whatever it is you like to do. So what goes on in here? So not a lot of real solid answers today. If you think the sauna helps you, then the sauna is good. Go for it. If you think it doesn't, well, spend your time doing something else that you think is good. There are a lot of benefits. Look at what's her name? I'll have to check this. Is it Susan Soderbergh? She's a Northern European scientist. Does a lot of cold exposure stuff. Also talks about heat. I know Huberman's covered it, but we have to start taking Huberman with a bit more of a pinch of salt these days. The more we do these videos and YouTubes and that, the more we run the risk of talking outside of our field of expertise. And to be fair, saunas are outside mine, which is why I'm being so vague and general. I am repeating what I've heard from other people and what I've read. So, Brian, is the sauna good for recovery? Yes. Is it the sauna or the swim that helps you? Yes. Do you need to think too much about it? No. No, you don't. If you think it's helping, it's helping. So keep doing it until it doesn't help anymore. Yeah. If it's just a general, if it's a depending on the nature of the injury, is what I'm trying to say there. Depending on the nature of injury, do we need specific interventions or do we need general movement? Try general movement first. There's a lot of people I know have ended up on the table in surgery because they've just believed. No, that's unfair. It's because they followed the doctor. The doctors referred them on, referred to, ended up with this in the surgeon's office, and the surgeon said, "We're going to open you up and do this," and the person just sat there, a complete passenger in the process, and ended up on the operating table. And I've seen a lot of people who've come out the other side of that no better off. And regretting not going through the process of, can we do general movement? Can we go to physio? Can we see exercise specialists? People like me who use exercise and movement to help with injuries, or try a whole load of other stuff. And you really should eliminate all options. And surgery should be the last thing, because if you're being cut open, that in itself is an injury. Sometimes it's absolutely and it's 100% necessary, but it works best when all other options have been taken off the table. A lot of guys have got themselves in trouble by just skipping over all the other stuff and going straight into surgery. And then they end up going through all the other stuff, trying to undo the problem. So what really we're sort of waffling around here is, Be curious. Like Brian here, he kind of did answer his own question, but he asked me with curiosity, is the sauna helping? Like, he's noticed he's feeling better. Is it the sauna? Is it the swim? Is it this? Is it that? That's curiosity. It's your body. You are responsible for you. It's your body. So take the time to listen to your body, to tune into it. Yeah? And then the methods, the interventions, the whatever it is you do for yourself, what those actually are becomes relatively unimportant. What works for you might not work for the next guy. What works for them might not work for you. But if you find something that does work for you, then go for it. Then go for it. Yeah? And really, that's all I've got. It's a case of being brave enough to try stuff, but being sensible enough to really think for yourself and go, right, is this helping? Is this hindering? Not taking snap results, or I feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to stop. Maybe that discomfort is what you need. Yeah, sometimes it is. If you're watching this, you're probably a person who trains, is into sports, martial arts, whatever else. So discomfort is not unusual to you. What happens on that side of the equation is we tend to be a little bit stupid, or we push through discomfort and come out the other side, and that's where greater injury happens. We actually make ourselves worse. There's a reason I have a near permanent limp. It's because I have exactly that mentality. Yeah. So somewhere in the middle, the moderate path is usually the right path for most people. If you're looking for the highest performance, then no, it isn't. But you have to realize down the line, you're going to pay interest on that decision. If you're on the other side of it, it's just as bad. So extremes bad, middle ground good, depending on your mindset and what your short-term immediate goals are. So anyway, great question from Brian. Nice little discussion. If you've anything that you want to say about this, there's space for comments down below. You can also email me. Go to davehedges.net and fire an email in. You'll find this blog. I'll link it down in the description. You'll find this blog post. You can read through it, and you can actually leave comments on the website. I like to hear from you. If you've got questions, if you've got something you want me to talk about, then absolutely send it in. What have we got coming up next? I have a whole list of stuff here that we're going to go through. That's going nice and slowly, so I might not be able to tell you. But, here we go. That was the sauna question. There it is. Ooh. Next video, we're talking about Simple and Sinister by Pavel Satsouline. Yeah, whole load of blogs that we're going to go through, and really I would appreciate you guys reaching out to feed me your questions. What is it you want to know? And then we can keep this going. Yeah, so do the whole like, subscribe thing, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.